So I'm with James, and he's holding his sign up so I can read the call sign because I'm of N0WRL. James is a very important person because you designed the software for the scoring system, and we've had this big scoring board on the wall here while the contest was happening. Very few people will probably know who you are because you've been in the background, but we wanted to bring you forward, James.
Well, thank you very much. And it's been a crazy 48 hours. This is the first interview I'm doing post event, so it's great to speak with you. I've just sort of been in the hole for the last 48 hours managing all the infrastructure, but it went great. You know, it's quite a complex operation. You know, you have these 50 Raspberry Pi scoring computers that are scattered across these 50 stations all around, you know, the whatever region you call the region of England we're in right now. What would you call it?
Different counties.
Different counties here, and connected over cellular networks. But if I could just, you know, briefly give sort of an overview of what the system is. There's 50 Raspberry Pis that are the scoring computers that sit at each contestant station. Those Raspberry Pis are running just a local network, a DHCP server that assigns IPs to the other devices. They're all connected via just an Ethernet switch there locally. And then we wrote a custom piece of software that sniffs UDP broadcast data on the Pi and then transmits it over the cellular network back to our centralized servers, cloud servers for all the scoring and things. And so I would say, you know, first of all, we're standing on the shoulders of giants here. I think each WRTC has progressed the scoring technology a bit and a bit and a bit. And I think we've done a good job this year, and you know, in collaboration, of course, with the WRTC team and many of the other folks involved, and Andy G4PIQ, who's really our network guy, and you know, building those Pis and things like that to create something that's really unique. We received over 250,000, about 258,000 QSO data, not just score, but the actual QSOs themselves over cellular network, and the Pis performed excellently. We didn't have any memory or CPU issues out in the field, and then all of that came back to the centralized scoring, where we were able to, you know, build a really nice, engaging front end. Which I've heard from so many people that, you know, who maybe have a spouse or a friend who's not a ham radio operator, and they said, "Thank you for that, because my spouse at home was able to watch the scoring and you know, see my face on the scoreboard and click in and see some statistics and follow the live commentary." So we really wanted to nail the technical part as much as possible and accurately receive the QSO data and do our best to report accurately on the score live as much as possible. But there is an adjudication process afterwards that's separate from what we do with the live scoreboard. That's what handles, you know, Trey and his team. They do a lot of log checking and review, and they have a separate process for that. But we wanted to try to accurately track the score as much as possible, while at the same time giving a very updated and enhanced UI for hams and non-hams alike at home to spectate and to enjoy the competition.
Well, I was sitting here yesterday, and I was sitting with Ray Novak from ICOM US. And Ray was one of the quietest I've seen him. I'm sorry, Ray, I'm not winding you up. And we sat and looked at your display. We were guessing that, and it was really interesting to watch. And Ray was so intent on watching what was going on. So it was certainly a good piece of software you've written. And nice to know that the little Raspberry Pis that some people don't take as a serious device work very, very well. And I've used them in the past in amateur radio. That's a great device.
Yeah, you know, when I first started testing for the event, we started building for this months ago, and I bought like one of the most updated Raspberry Pis, which is the Raspberry Pi 4, and you know, they're much upgraded in terms of the CPU, the RAM that's available. They have a Wi-Fi card on them, which makes them really easy to work with when you're just at home. And I was wondering, like, do these Raspberry 2s, which is Raspberry Pi 2s, are they going to have any issues with performance on receiving, you know, thousands and thousands of QSOs each? Yeah. And no issues at all. We didn't have any issues with storage space. We didn't have any. You know, they performed great. And I think they did a really, really good job. I think there's a lot to build on for 2030. And, whether it's WRL or what other service, I think there's a lot of things that we can learn from to bring to the next one to improve it even further. But the Raspberry Pis did great. And we Andy actually set up a VPN, and we had SSH access into all of the Pis during the event. So we were about 92% uptime across the Pis. We did have a couple that, for some reason, we could never really get online. I think there was, some sort of a last minute networking issue at the stations, and we couldn't get to those. But for the large part, the Pis performed great. So I mean, it's interesting because it's a technical challenge, but when you get into the actual event, it very quickly becomes a logistical challenge because let's say that you have 3 or 4 that have some sort of small issue. Now you're trying to simultaneously manage log into these devices and fix, and you're sort of racing against the clock. So it felt in a way like as the different teams were out there contesting, the WRL team and the WRTC team here on the IT side were sort of contesting alongside them to monitor the data coming in, to verify it, and to troubleshoot and fix any of the issues as they appeared.
Yeah, it sounds very interesting. Now, the other burning question is WRTC 2030, I believe, Croatia, possibly. Are you going to be there, and is your software going to be running there?
I certainly hope so. We did WRL. We did all of this for free. This is not a paid engagement for us. This is just something that, for us, with World Radio League, really our vision is to bring a lot of modern technology and interfaces into the ham radio contesting world. And that's, of course, is for the contesters, but it's also, we really want to bridge the gap between newer hams and the contest folks. And I think when the newer ham radio operators can really get a better peek into what these elite contesters are doing. I'm not a contester myself even. I'm a ham radio operator. I'm a bit of a POTA activator. I pop into some contests and make some contacts, right? But for folks like me, when you get to see sort of this elite level, which is really a whole nother level, and you get to see what it's about, it's really exciting. And even that's why we do things like a top hunter dashboard, right? Because you don't have to be one of the top 100 contesters in the world to get on and make some contacts with these stations, have a great time, and maybe even just compete to be the top hunter of the WRT stations in your state. It makes it more ways because, look, we've got 3 million, or actually probably more than 3 million hams. There's no true way to know how many ham radio operators there are in the world. Probably got more than 3 million in the world. There's no way everyone is going to be a WRTC competitor, right? And so I think that's where we want to continue to grow and build the software.
Yeah. Well, that all sounds good. And in fairness, I'm going to thank you very much for telling us this. There's a lot of clever stuff you've gone in there. And I'd like to thank you very, very much for letting the listeners know exactly what you guys have been up to. So, James, thank you very, very much for this interview.
Thank you very much. I hope I don't look too disheveled. Being up for 36 hours. I did finally, after the competition was ended, I was able to order myself a pizza, have a late night pizza, and then crash out for about 10 hours. So I'm recovering now.
That's great.